Get ready, because today we're going to talk about 10 tips for publishing and marketing your books. By the way, my name is Brandon McNulty. I'm the author of The Half Murders, and welcome to my writing channel. Typically on this channel, we talk about the nitty-gritty parts of the writing process. We talk about how to write better scenes, how to write better characters, how to work with plot structure, and so on and so on. But most recently, one of my subscribers requested a video on the topic of publishing and marketing. And I thought we'd take a look at that today, mainly because I just got done publishing my third book, The Half Murders. So things are pretty fresh in my mind, and today we're going to take a look at 10 specific tips that'll help you with publishing and marketing your books. Now, one quick thing I want to throw out there before we begin is that publishing and marketing strategies are constantly changing. Something that works today may not work tomorrow or next month or next year, so it's up to you to pay attention to what the current trends are. If you are publishing a book or you do plan on spending some money on advertising, pay attention to what works right here and now. First tip is that the best form of marketing is writing your next book. And this is a great piece of advice in general because it's going to keep you productive, and it's a great reminder that a career is not built on just one book. And the thing is, the more books you put out there, the more chances you have to attract audiences. For instance, maybe you don't like the idea of my book Entry Wounds, but you do like the idea of my book The Half Murders. And so you pick up a copy of The Half Murders, you read it, you decide you like my writing style or my storytelling style, and then all of a sudden you buy my other books. And another thing to keep in mind here is that every time you release a new book, you rejuvenate your existing audience. You give them something to get excited about. And when they're excited about your upcoming books, they tend to talk about your existing books and pass them along to other people. So this is a great way to expand your reach. Tip number 2 is to keep your book as short as possible. And this is great advice in general, especially with your story. Audiences love stories that are tight and focused and exciting. Now, another benefit here is that when you are publishing a story, you will save a lot of money in the long run if you keep it short. And keep in mind things like the fact that page count. If you have a book that you're publishing in print, every page is going to cost a few pennies. Keep in mind also the fact that when you hire an editor, that editor will get paid by the word. So if you have a 90,000 word book that can be shrunk down to an 80,000 word book, you will save a lot of money by cutting it down. And then another thing to keep in mind would be your audiobook narrator. If you're hiring an audiobook narrator, they're going to likely get paid by the finished hour. So a book that runs for 10 hours is going to cost more than a book that runs for 9 hours. Tip number 3 is to get professional editing, interior formatting, and cover art. Those 3 things are very important in terms of making your book look professional, especially with editing. Copy editing is very important, and copy editing is the type of editing that deals with making your sentences pop, making them so that they read smoothly. Always get a copy editor. You may also want to get a developmental editor early on in the writing process, especially if you're struggling with things like plot structure and character arcs and things like that. But at minimum, you should have a copy editor. Then another thing to keep in mind is interior formatting. Now, you can hire someone to do your interior formatting, or you can also get professional software. For instance, I use software called Vellum. I'll link to it in the description below. But what Vellum is, you have to have a Mac to use it. I actually bought a Mac Mini, a used one, in order to get it, because the thing with Vellum, it's so easy to use. You literally just drop a Word document into it, and then it formats your book for you. It makes it look really nice, and you can tinker with the different styles and fonts and everything like that. And then finally, cover art is critical. Cover art is probably the most important form of advertising there is, because the cover of your book is signaling to your audience what type of book it is, how exciting it's going to be. You know, if you have a flashy, exciting cover that signals the genre you're writing in, that will help grab an audience for you. And you want to have a cover that will stand out when audiences are scrolling through Amazon, looking at all the different potential books out there. Tip number 4 is to offer as many book formats as possible. And when we talk about book formats, we're talking about things like the ebook, the paperback, the hardcover, and the audiobook. Those are the big 4 in terms of format options. Different audiences like different formats. A lot of people who watch my YouTube videos, they go off and they get the audiobook version of my books because they're used to listening things. A lot of people listen to my videos, so then it's an easy jump for them to listen to one of my books. One bonus tip that I'll throw out here is that if you do have that hardcover option, it'll make the other options look cheaper by comparison. Usually the hardcover is going to be the most expensive, so if you have a hardcover, it might cost like $30, for instance. And then somebody might look at that and they'll say, no way am I paying $30 for a book. That's way too much. But then they see the paperback, and maybe the paperback is $20, and it's like, oh, well, that's a good deal. I'm saving $10 there. Or they see the ebook is $10 or $5, and they think they're getting a really good deal. So that's something to keep in mind. If you do have all the options, options, it'll make the cheaper ones look like even more of a steal. Tip number 5 is to buy your own ISBNs. ISBNs are those 13-digit numbers you see on the back of a book on the UPC. You'll also see them on the copyright page of a book. Essentially, they're like a registration number for your book. They help with like legal things and stuff like that. But if you are publishing a book through Amazon or Ingram Spark or other companies, you may get the option to get your own free ISBN. And I would advise against getting the free ISBN. You want to be in total control of that, especially with how the publishing industry is changing from time to time. Like in a few years, you might want to jump to a different platform or something like that. So keep control of your ISBNs, and basically you buy them through a site called Bowker.com. You can buy them in sets of 10 or sets of 100. Do whatever you think is best, but keep control of your books, because you never know how things are going to shape up in the future, whether it's 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line. Tip number 6 is to spare no expense. And I know I sound like John Hammond right now, but the thing is, if you put a lot of time and effort into your book and you spend hundreds or even thousands of hours writing and revising and editing and taking your book to beta readers and receiving feedback and implementing that feedback and going through the process again and again until you have the best possible book, if you go through all that effort, you should not be going cheap on things like your editor and your cover art and the other things we talked about. And what I'm trying to say here with spare no expense, I'm not saying that you should be spending astronomical amounts of money on publishing your book. Instead, what I'm saying is that if you have an option between a good editor and a great editor, and maybe that great editor is a few $100s more, take the financial hit, because a great book will be worth it in the end. Tip number 7 is to save your receipts. We just talked about spending money, and anytime you spend money on the publication of your book, you should hang on to that receipt. If you spend several $100s on an editor or whatever it is, make sure you hold on to that receipt. It's very important because you can use those as expenses against your income. So if you're making money off the book, you will have to pay less taxes if you use those expenses against it. And you can also use your business expenses against your day job income. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I'm not going to get too far into this because I'm not a tax professional, but do your research on this and always save your receipts. Tip number 8 is to experiment with different types of marketing and advertising. And there are many different ways to market or advertise your books. For instance, Amazon ads are a popular method, and Amazon ads, the way they work, you pay for ads on Amazon, and every time someone clicks on one of those ads, you pay a certain amount. You might pay like, 25 cents or 50 cents or $1 or whatever it is, and then somebody will go through to the landing page for your book. And one of the great things about Amazon ads is that when you advertise on Amazon, you are advertising on a website where people go to with a buying mindset. This is different from if they were to, go on Facebook and they see an ad on there. If they're on Facebook, they're in more of a social mindset. But when a customer is on Amazon, they want to buy things. So if they see an advertisement for a book, they're more likely to buy it. Another strategy would be email advertising. And this includes things like BookBub, The Fussy Librarian, and there's a bunch of others out there. But basically, if you're not familiar with BookBub, they essentially have a huge list of people who like to read ebooks. Like I'm talking like more than 1 million people. And if you're lucky enough to get an advertising deal with them, you can have your book advertised to all these different subscribers who open up their daily emails. You could put your book on sale, and oftentimes this will lead to some major sales spikes for you. And there are tons of other advertising strategies out there. I'm sure if you do some research online, you could find out what's working right now, what works best for your type of book and things like that. But I think it never hurts to at least test out different things, see what does work, see where you can have some success. Tip number 9 is to decide whether you want your book to be exclusively available through one retailer or if you want to go wide and have it available through many retailers. Now, if you go exclusive through one retailer, you may reap certain benefits as a result of this. For instance, if you only have your ebook available on Amazon, you'll be able to participate in their Kindle Unlimited program. You'll be eligible for that. And basically the way it works, Kindle Unlimited is like Netflix for books. So if readers sign up for Kindle Unlimited, they pay a monthly fee and then they can read as many books as they want. And if your book is on there, they might be willing to take a chance on it since it's free, and they might read 50 pages and they might get hooked and they might read the rest of your book. And if you are in Kindle Unlimited, you will get paid based on how many pages of your books are read per month. Now, on the other hand, you might want to go wide. You might want to have your ebook available on Barnes & Noble, on Google Play, Apple Books, and all the other retailers out there so that you get, the full potential audience. And then finally, tip number 10 is to never rush anything. Never rush any part of the writing process, never rush any part of the publishing process. And the thing is, if you do try to rush things, if you try to rush your book out the door, or you try to shoot for an early release date, it can cause a lot of problems. So I hope this helps. Question of the day, what scares you more, publishing or marketing? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of any one of my books and be sure to leave reviews on Amazon. If you like horror stories, you'll love The Half Murders. It's about a woman and her daughter who go into a haunted house and they get chopped in half, and for them, the nightmare is only beginning. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, like, share, and subscribe. And as always, remember to keep on writing.